Imagine having so much gold. You crash entire economies just by showing up. In the 14th century, one man did exactly that, and he wasn't a king from Europe or a sultan from the Middle East. He was an African emperor from Mali, and his name was Mansa Musa. He went on a pilgrimage with tens of thousands of people, camels dripping in gold, and gave away so much wealth that cities never recovered. This is the story of the richest human to ever walk the earth, and how he changed the world with power, purpose, and gold. In the heart of 14th century West Africa, where the golden dunes of the Sahara met the lush forests of the Niger River, there rose an empire unlike any other, the Mali Empire. At its helm stood a ruler whose name would echo through the corridors of history, not for conquest or cruelty, but for wealth so vast it defied comprehension. His name was Mansa Musa, and he is widely considered the richest person to have ever lived. The rise of a golden empire, Musa ascended the throne of Mali around 1312 CE, inheriting one of the largest empires in the world at the time. But under his rule, Mali didn't just grow in size, it flourished in power, culture, and above all, wealth. The empire was cradled in one of the richest gold-producing regions in the world. At a time when gold was the lifeblood of global trade, Mali's mines poured it out in endless rivers. As emperor, Mansa Musa controlled these gold fields and the vast trans-Saharan trade routes, making his empire a critical node in the exchange of salt, ivory, slaves, and, most lucratively, gold. But Musa's wealth wasn't merely material. He was also a patron of knowledge, faith, and architecture, the pilgrimage that shook the world. In 1324, Mansa Musa embarked on a pilgrimage to Mecca, the Hajj, a journey that would catapult him into legend. But this was no ordinary trip. Musa's caravan stretched farther than the eye could see, with 60,000 attendants, thousands of soldiers, and hundreds of camels, each laden with gold. He was said to have distributed gold so freely in Cairo and other cities along the way that he caused a decade-long inflation crisis in Egypt. Markets crashed, currencies fluctuated, and local economies spiraled from the sudden surge of wealth. Never before, and never again, would the arrival of a single man impact the global economy in such a dramatic fashion. Timbuktu, a jewel of knowledge and faith. Upon his return, Mansa Musa transformed his capital, Timbuktu, into a beacon of Islamic learning and culture. He commissioned mosques, madrasas, and libraries, most famously the Jingareba Mosque, which still stands today. He brought scholars and architects from across the Islamic world, laying the foundation for Timbuktu's later renown as one of the intellectual centers of the medieval world. His investments weren't just in stone and gold, they were in legacy. Through education and infrastructure, he ensured the Mali Empire would continue to thrive long after his death. A legacy beyond imagination. Estimates of Mansa Musa's wealth in today's terms are elusive, but many economists and historians agree. He would likely be worth over $400 billion today, more than any modern billionaire. But Mansa Musa's story is more than one of riches. It is the story of a visionary leader who used his fortune to build bridges between continents, cultures, and centuries. His wealth may have dazzled the world, but it was his faith, generosity, and ambition that made Mansa Musa truly immortal. Yet beneath the glittering surface of gold lies a deeper story, one rich with lessons about leadership, legacy, and the power of wealth. Let us look at it from economic perspectives. What impact does it have on the Mali of today? Wealth as influence, not just excess. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage was more than just a display of religious devotion. It was a calculated demonstration of Mali's might. His journey through North Africa into the Arabian Peninsula broadcast the empire's prosperity and stability to the rest of the world. In doing so, Musa turned wealth into a diplomatic tool. Cities he passed through were left in awe of his generosity, but also deeply aware of Mali's global significance. His actions placed Mali on world maps and in the imagination of traders and scholars from Europe to the Middle East. So what can we learn from him? Economic power, when displayed with strategy, can serve as soft power, expanding a nation's influence without the need for conquest. The double-edged sword of generosity. While Musa's gold was received with excitement, the economic consequences were more complicated. In cities like Cairo, the influx of gold led to a period of inflation that lasted over a decade. The value of gold plummeted due to its sudden abundance, destabilizing local economies that relied on it as a standard of wealth. What then is your take? Even acts of kindness and generosity, if not thoughtfully managed, can lead to unintended harm. Responsible stewardship is essential, even in giving. Building a legacy beyond riches. Perhaps the most enduring part of Mansa Musa's story came after the journey. Instead of continuing to flaunt his wealth, he invested it in his people. He brought back architects, scholars, and artisans to build mosques, universities, and libraries. Timbuktu, under his leadership, blossomed into a global center of Islamic learning, attracting students and thinkers from across the world. How, then, does his display of wealth sustain Mali of today economically? True legacy is not measured by how much you spend, but by what you build. Lasting impact comes from investing in knowledge, culture, and community. The power of public image. Musa's journey was as much about faith as it was about visibility. In a time when many African empires were left out of global discourse, Mansa Musa made sure Mali could not be ignored. His portrayal on the 1375 Catalan Atlas, holding a golden orb, cemented his place in world memory, not just as a wealthy ruler, but as a symbol of African power and sophistication. What economic impact has it? Grand gestures and public image can shape historical narratives. Leaders are often remembered not just for who they were, but for how they chose to be seen. Faith and leadership. Hand in hand. Mansa Musa's pilgrimage was deeply spiritual, fulfilling one of the 5 pillars of Islam, yet it was also political. By aligning Mali more closely with the Islamic world, he elevated the empire's religious legitimacy and connected it with influential networks across the Middle East and North Africa. The big lesson: leadership often exists at the intersection of faith, politics, and public perception. The most effective leaders understand how to navigate all three with balance and intention. So Mansa Musa's story is not just a tale of immeasurable riches, it is a mirror reflecting the potential of wealth when used with purpose. From the risks of unchecked generosity to the rewards of investing in culture, his legacy offers timeless lessons. In today's world, where the gap between the rich and poor continues to grow, Musa's life reminds us that the true value of wealth lies not in how loudly it is displayed, but in how wisely it is used. Mansa Musa's legendary journey left an unforgettable mark on history. His wealth dazzled the world, but it was his investments in culture, education, and faith that built a lasting legacy. From gold-laden caravans to the rise of Timbuktu, his story is a powerful reminder that wealth is most meaningful when used for the greater good. What do you think we can learn from his legacy today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story and want more history brought to life, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for future insights. Let's keep the conversation going.